How do I look? You look like Shawk. Shawk flicked her ear and sent an exasperated look up at Winter Moon. The dragon, or was she a beastman who could turn into a dragon? Looked back down at her with an innocent expression. What? Didn't you say that the Sorceress Kingdom's delegation is almost here? Shawk asked. I did, Winter Moon answered. Then I can't just look like Shawk. I need to look like Eel Ink Sock. Do you realize that your guests will be ignorant of all of your customs? You could wear anything and they would smile and accept it. She turned her attention back to her polished jet mirror and fussed with the iridescent feathers dangling from her head. In addition to the feathers, the human tailors had fashioned colorful garments for her to wear for the occasion, complete with a red cloak woven from nug hair. It looked utterly silly to her, and Winter Moon wasn't being much help. If something goes wrong, Shawk rumbled, I'm blaming you. What could possibly go wrong? Winter Moon asked, do you realize the lengths they've gone to make this visit happen? It's not a trip from which one returns empty-handed. I hope you're right. Despite Shawk's progress in Roland Gork and its surrounding territories, she was continually reminded of the reality of their situation. Whether due to word of mouth or just sheer desperation, more and more clans sent representatives to secure any food they could get. Even the rivers and lakes, which many had turned to for sustenance, were being rapidly depleted of fish, shellfish, snakes, crocodiles, and everything else. Far to the east, the Yorgulans continued to press their invasion with no sign of relenting. The floodwaters had stopped rising, but they wouldn't recede fast enough to save the herds. Knowledge of fungus farming spread quickly, but not quickly enough. All Shawk could do was continue to bring tribes under her influence and encourage cooperation between them. It was working so far, but her doubts grew as food supplies grew scarcer. Anything could go wrong at any time, and there was little she could do other than agonize over the outcome. Shawk. Her father's voice came from outside of her room, are you finished in there? Shawk shuffled out into her home's central chamber. Her father licked his lips upon seeing her. I knew it, Shawk sighed. I'm sure you look wonderful by human standards, her father said. But is there any need to dress like a human in the first place? I don't know. I went around asking what I could do to make the humans feel welcome, and this is what happened. Her embarrassing garments weren't the only thing that happened. Though Master Leeds and his fellow humans had never heard of a place called the Sorceress Kingdom, they still went into a flurry of activity as they prepared for their guests' eventual arrival. The clanhold was swept up in their excitement as well, creating all sorts of confusion. Well, I suppose it's a sacrifice a lord must make. Father. Shawk's father cleared his throat. Master Leeds wishes to speak with you. The elders also have some questions. Where are they? The elders are waiting for you in the courtyard. Master Leeds is at the Merchant Guild office. I guess I'll see the elders first. Let Master Leeds know I'll be with him soon. I will. Also, I have a concern. What is it? The accommodations we've prepared for our visitors, are you sure they're large enough? What if the delegation has a human lord? What do you mean by that? Our human dwellings are built for regular humans. A human lord is surely much larger. Ah. She stared blankly at her father. Did they need to make some last-minute changes? The two humans you spoke with are both human lords, Winter Moon told her. Are you sure? Shawk asked. One was pretty tall for a human, but the other one was about as tall as the other humans I've seen. Human lords aren't bigger than other humans just because they're lords, Winter Moon said. That doesn't make any sense, Shawk said. Wouldn't that put human lords at a disadvantage in a fight? That may be so, Winter Moon said, but I didn't make up the rules. We went over this back in the Sorceress Kingdom. Someone made up the rules? Shawk shook her head free of the stray thought. It wasn't the time to be entertaining silly ideas. We went through things so quickly while we were there, Shawk said. My memory isn't perfect. Well, mine is. She entertained the idea of swatting Winter Moon for her ridiculous claim, but decided against it. Everything would fall apart if she was eaten. The elders in the courtyard exchanged looks between themselves as Shulk emerged from her home. She did her best to look nonchalant as she took her seat. "Someone wanted to speak with me?" she asked. An elderly Osalo male by the name of Char Ac rose amidst the rows of seated elders. "Elingsok," he said, "there are growing concerns amongst us that the influence of these humans grows too great." Char Ac's words caught Shulk completely off guard. Why would the elders bring up human influence when there were so many other things to worry about? "Is this really the time to bring this up, Char Ac? I am afraid if we wait any longer, it will be too late. Even now, more humans are about to arrive, bringing with them their foreign ways. What's your problem with human influence anyway? Their help has been invaluable. We wouldn't have gotten as far as we have without them." "Not everyone agrees with that assessment," Char Ac said. "They have certainly introduced many new techniques to our artisans, but what have they done in terms of our survival that we were not already capable of? We already had the ships, people, and leadership. At best, all they did was help us enact obvious measures slightly faster." After some thought, Shulk decided that his unkindly phrased statement wasn't too far from the truth. Even without the humans, there was nothing she would have done differently even if it did take a bit longer. "Though that may be the case," Shulk said, "every bit of help is appreciated." "But what is the cost of this help?" Char Ac gestured toward the nearby terrace where the humans dwelt. "I cannot help but notice that the humans are imbalanced in their outlook on life. They toil endlessly in the pursuit of trade and wealth. Our resources and energy have gone towards supporting this to the detriment of every other aspect of our lives. So many of our people have fallen under the human sway, and our youths now commonly seek to become artisans and merchants." "We had artisans and merchants before I brought the humans here," Shulk noted. "With the growth of the clan, we will need more of them." "It is not the same as before," the elder told her. "Before, our merchants and artisans served the needs of the people, earning an honest living in the process. Now, they are adopting the humans' ways, becoming self-serving and independent. The very fabric of our society will begin to fray if this continues." "You're exaggerating," Shulk said. "Most of the people who are now working with the humans came from the city. They were clanless and always had to look out for themselves in the first place. It makes sense that they're attracted to how the humans do things. By entering under the tutelage of the humans, they kept from returning to our ways. It isn't as if our people are being tied up and forced to adopt the humans' customs and values," Shulk said. "If you're so concerned about this, why don't you run your own thing to teach them ours?" Char Ac flicked his ear, uttering an exasperated sigh. "Because the incentive to follow human ways is too great, especially in desperate times like ours. By the time we emerge from this crisis, our clan will have been irrevocably changed." Many of the elders murmured in agreement. Shulk tapped her foreclaws against the stone surface of her seat. Why couldn't they have come to her with their worries when she wasn't so busy? "I can't exactly chase the humans away," she said, "nor do I think it would be a good idea. What do you propose we should do about this, exactly?" "Our ways must be able to compete with those of the humans in the eyes of our people," Char Ac said. "You've been successful in raising warriors and hunters for our security, so we thought that something similar might be done for those who would teach and uphold our values and traditions. In other words, they need to pay the people who fill the roles that they're looking for." No, that's only the smallest part of it. It was a surprisingly difficult problem to solve. The clan saw to the basic needs of its leaders, including herself. For anything extra, they were dependent on contributions from the people. Char Ac was right about the life of an elder, lawkeeper, or other vocation with a similar arrangement being far less attractive to the people of Korstorofi than the promising future of a merchant or artisan. Paying someone to occupy a place of honor feels like it would be highly problematic, Shulk said. "I agree, Elingsok," Char Ac replied. "Unnecessary displays of authority would also risk attracting the wrong sorts. Honestly, we are at a loss as to how we can attract people to a life of service to the clan. With the arrival of more humans to our land, we fear we will be overwhelmed. Shawk wondered if other clans faced similar issues. Then again, the other clans had established histories that their members probably felt connected to and took pride in. It was a far cry from Osalopacan, which had only been the faded memory of a clan, and the vast majority of its members were dissociated cityfolk until recently. Time is the only cure for this problem, Shawk said. Time and work. We can't expect people who were clanless until a few months ago to have any kind of attachment to Osalopacan, and we have no known history for our members to take pride in. Everyone understands that what we're doing right now is important, and they know that we're doing it as a clan. I think that's good enough for now. And what if the humans influence our people even further with their foreign ways? Cha AC asked. They are coming to establish trade, Shawk answered, not take over Roland Gork. Also, I understand the importance that our traditions hold, but we can't remain the same as we've always been. We must change with our circumstances or we'll cease to exist. I'm not saying that we need to discard the past, we can keep what already works while changing what needs to be changed. The elders didn't look very pleased with her answer, but they voiced no further arguments. She would have to continue the discussion once things had settled down. Winter Moon fell into step beside her as she made her way down to speak with Master Leeds. You seem to be growing as a lord, Winter Moon said. It feels more like I'm being squashed, Shawk replied. What makes you think I'm growing? Your public speaking continues to improve and answers to your subjects' concerns come more easily. You've also literally grown 4 centimeters in the past 2 months. Shawk stared down at her paw. She hadn't noticed any growth at all. At this rate, she was going to be as big as a Nar by the time the deluge came around again. A dazzling array of bright colors greeted them as they entered the gaily decorated lanes of the human district. Master Leeds and his guild members had spared no effort to impress the delegation from the Sorceress Kingdom. The streets were swept clean and the artisans put their best work on display. Every man, woman, and child wore newly tailored garments. Shawk navigated her way through the dizzying sights to the Merchant Guild office, where the guildmaster was reading something at the front desk. Sorry for the wait, Shawk said. I had to hold audience with the elders. It's not a problem, Master Leeds replied. I just wanted to go over some last-minute things with you. Like what? First of all, I'd like to show you the accommodations we've prepared for our guests. The guildmaster rose from his seat and gestured for her to follow him. He made his way to one of the newest buildings in the human part of the terrace, which had been expanded slightly to make room for new families. Like the rest of the construction in the clanhold, the home was built out of carved stone. What do you think? Master Leeds asked. It's nice, I guess. Shawk answered, I still don't know what makes an attractive house for a human. Well, the guildmaster gestured to the scenery beyond the house. It's at the edge of the new development, so it still has a view. We've put in some of the best furnishings our people have made during our time here, and there are even a few pieces of art to give the place a luxurious feel. I'd say the quality's up there with the best inns a human city can offer. Any Osalo appreciated a comfortable branch with a good view of the surroundings, so maybe humans weren't so different in their tastes, after all. After looking around the house, they returned to the market square to view the shops and stands. Our guests will be surprised to find a market here that wouldn't be outdone by a plaza in the Draconic Kingdom or any other human country, Master Leeds said proudly. Everyone just can't wait to show their stuff. Have you figured out anything about the place where the human delegation is from? Shawk asked. Countries don't spring up overnight, the guildmaster answered, and there isn't one called the Sorceress Kingdom anywhere in the region. There aren't even any rumors about the place as far as my people have heard. Of the 2 people you spoke with, Corlin sounds like a surname from Riastais, while Wagner sounds imperial. Both Riastais and the Baharuth Empire still exist, though. Are you sure you traveled northwest? There isn't anything but Argland and the ocean past those 2 countries. Yes, I'm sure we went northwest. Strange, then maybe they aren't who they say they are. Why would they do something like that? Who knows? Master Leeds shrugged. People can try some audacious things. Falsely claiming to represent someone powerful hoping to open doors and secure deals isn't uncommon out in the world, neither is taking advantage of people in desperate situations. She was fairly certain that it wasn't the case. The human lords had a huge clanhold and their territory stretched as far as the eye could see. Who would go to such great lengths to lie about who they were? Then there was the fact that Winter Moon brought her specifically to them. What about the undead that attacked the Draconic Kingdom? The Guildmaster rubbed his pointy chin. You mean to say that the same undead horde that overran the Draconic Kingdom also attacked Reastais and the Empire? And then whoever destroyed the undead on that side founded the Sorcerer's Kingdom out of the ruins? Maybe they got rid of the undead in the Draconic Kingdom, too. That would explain how they can come up the river to trade with us, Master Leeds said. I suppose we'll find out soon enough. Are you ready for our negotiations? Shawk asked. As ready as I'll ever be, the Guildmaster answered. It's going to be an interesting challenge given what we have available. We are not asking for anything fancy, Shawk said. They said meat would be difficult to come up with, but fodder for the herds would be reasonably priced. That's the assumption I've been working under, Master Leeds replied. Assuming prices haven't changed much from what they were last year, we should be able to alleviate the grazing problems of the nearest tribes, at least for a little while. A little while would go a long way. Every week that they could sustain the herds was another week more fungus farms were established. That being said, it was only a small step towards saving Roland Gork as a whole. At some point, the vast majority of the Confederation would be starving and she couldn't for the life of her figure out how Osalo Pakan and its allies would deal with that. They've reached the lake, Winter Moon said before running off. How does she know that? Not that she dared demand an explanation. According to their visitors from the Beastman Confederacy, Winter Moon and her companions were part of an ancient and advanced people that she was better off not getting on the bad side of. The way they tended to stay aloof made that pretty hard to do, but it also made it hard to get to know them. After informing the elders that the Sorcerer's Kingdom's delegation would soon arrive, Shawk went to watch their guests' arrival from atop the cliffs. There, she found Kaimali leaning over the railing, his tail twitching back and forth in excitement. I was wondering where you were, Shawk said. I couldn't stay still once Winter Moon told us they would arrive today, Kaimali said. Do you think our negotiations will go well? You merchants have been preparing for this for weeks, Shawk said. Shouldn't you be confident that you'll be able to get something done? If we were dealing with another of Roland Gork's clans, Kaimali replied, I would be nothing but confident. But these humans, we've already benefited so much from the guidance of Master Leeds and his people. What we have to offer seems like a pittance compared to what we have to gain from trade with an entire country. Shawk felt that way, as well. From what she had seen of the Draconic Kingdom and the Sorcerer's Kingdom, Roland Gork was so far behind that she didn't know how many centuries it would have taken them to catch up without help. Her people hadn't even conceived of things like smithing, alchemy, and many other crafts that the humans had long employed. I get where you're coming from, Shawk said, but remember that we're mostly trading for food. Everything else they have to offer must wait until later. I understand that, Kaimali said. But what if there's something we'd want to take advantage of right away? Like what? I don't know. What if they have something that can help us fight the Yorgulans? They're here to trade, Shawk told Kaimali, not fight. Even if they could help, why would they? With this visit, we'll have only just met them. The Clanhold's residents started to trickle in, chattering excitedly as they gathered atop the cliffs. The first of the visiting ships arrived half an hour later, drawing crowds of curious onlookers along both riverbanks. Shawk leaned forward on the railing alongside Kaimali as 3 more vessels appeared following the first. That barge in the front is the largest ship I've ever seen, Kaimali said. It must be 4 times larger than the ones behind it, and those are twice as large as any of ours. I can't say I've seen anything like it, either, Master Leeds said. It's not just the size, it looks like the whole damn thing is made out of metal. That can't be right, Kaimali said. How can there be so much metal in the world? Maybe they're only metal-coated. They say that human warriors have iron armor, so why not their ships? I wonder what it's carrying, Shork murmured. Do you think it's used to ship livestock? No one had an answer for her, so she continued to watch the approaching fleet as it smoothly glided up the river. That was another thing, the ships had no paddle wheels like Rolengork's barges did, nor were there any oars or other visible signs of what drove them forward. What's that thing on the front of the first ship? Shork asked as the barges came closer. It looks like a big hut, Kaimali answered. Why would a ship have a hut? I don't know, Kaimali said. The more important question is, why are the humans green? Master Lead squeezed in beside Kaimali and peered at the ships below. Those aren't humans, he said. If I'm not wrong, they're goblins. There are a few other races on the deck, as well. I thought you said the Sorcerer's Kingdom was a human country. Kaimali turned a suspicious eye on her. It looked just like the Draconic Kingdom. Shork protested, and the only people I saw there were humans. There are humans down there, too, the Guildmaster said. This is getting stranger by the minute. A human country that counts many other races as its citizens is unheard of. Can it even be called a human country anymore? Shork said. We may want to rethink how we handle this, Master Leads. We don't have enough accommodations prepared for so many, for one thing. Isn't that the least of our problems? As the ships closed with the port, Shork retreated to the courtyard to reconsider how she should negotiate with the Sorcerer's Kingdom. For one thing, she wasn't familiar with outside races aside from humans. What if she had to speak with a goblin or something else? Eelinksok? Shork looked up from her seat to find Elder Potley giving her a questioning look. There are more than just humans on the incoming ships, Shork said. Does anyone know anything about goblins? The assembled elders looked up at her wordlessly. As expected, they knew as little as she did. Living in the heart of Rolengork didn't expose one to anything aside from beastmen. With a drawn-out sigh, Shork gathered her tail in her lap and steeled herself for the arrival of the Sorcerer's Kingdom's delegation. Her father, who had volunteered to receive their visitors as they disembarked, appeared at the top of the stairs to the courtyard 10 minutes later. Behind him were 5 humans, 3 tall and 2 short. 2 she had spoken with before, the human lords named Corlin and Wagner. There was another golden-haired human with them, as well as a brown-haired and white-haired one. They all wore colorful garments of different styles, but she didn't understand what each one meant. As they made their way between the rows of elders to stand at the base of her dais, Shork straightened in her seat. Welcome to our clanhold, esteemed guests from the Sorcerer's Kingdom, she said. I am Eelinksok Osalopakan, Lord of the Pakan clan. We thank you for your welcome, Eelinksok, the third golden-haired human said. I am in Florine Cadia Dale Gonye. Pip. Shork blinked as a bird appeared atop the human's head. What did it mean? Was it a symbol of importance? All Shork had was feathers, the human had a whole bird. She hoped it wouldn't negatively affect their negotiations. This is in Ludmilla Zaradnik, in Florine continued. Eel in Lion Loretta Dale Wagner. Eel in Clara Odelia Dale Corlin. The humans each made their greetings in turn. The white-haired human didn't get an introduction. Maybe she was an attendant. It is a pleasure to meet you all, Shork said. My people have not known you humans for long, so I hope our hospitality is appropriate. Speaking of which, you've brought more people with you than we've prepared accommodations for. My father's inn should have room for them if they don't mind. We'll let them know and see what they decide, Eel in Florine replied. Our ship has room for everyone, so many may not leave the cabins they've become accustomed to. Maybe that's why that one ship was so big. In that case, Shork said, please let my father know. Ah, he's the Osalo who guided you here. We've prepared a feast for our evening meal, but, since it's still early, how about a tour of the clanhold? The humans exchanged silent looks. After a long silence, Florine addressed Shork again. Given Rolengork's dire situation, my lady, we would like to begin discussing trade between our peoples immediately. There is much to explore, and, the sooner we do so, the sooner we can begin bringing in much-needed shipments from the Sorcerer's Kingdom. Shork held in a sigh of relief. Thankfully, the humans were willing to forego all the formalities that Shork found so awkward. Your sense of urgency is appreciated, Shork said as she rose from her seat. We look forward to seeing what you have to offer. If I get dragged off into the jungle, will you come and save me? Why would anyone drag you off into the jungle? Do you see how many beastmen there are around here? There are bound to be a few who see me as a snack. Your equipment makes you stronger than the average beastman. They wouldn't be able to harm you, either. What if a stronger than average beastman drags me off? A pack of 'em. Leanne frowned in concern as Ludmilla rolled her eyes and turned her attention back to their surroundings. Weren't martial nobles supposed to protect their frail and helpless counterparts? She took a step back as a beastman carrying 2 armfuls of straw walked past her. Being in Rolengork wasn't anything like being in the demi-human quarter in Rantel or the cosmopolitan streetscapes of Carnassus. The sheer number of predatory demi-humans around her combined with the decidedly not-for-humans environment caused her to be constantly wary even when she didn't want to be. It wasn't just her who was being affected, of course. Clara couldn't speak at first when they made their introductions to Countess Shork. Even now, she clung onto Ludmilla's arm as if her life depended on it. Florine at least outwardly seemed composed. Maybe it was because she had spent months in the Abelian Hills doing stuff with all the demi-human tribes there. What are those bundles of dried grass? Countess Shork asked. It's straw, Florine answered. A byproduct of our grain crops. It has an endless number of uses, including being supplemental fodder for livestock. What kind of livestock do you have? My territory has cows and pigs, Florine replied. Lady Wagner is starting to raise flocks of sheep, but the rest of our duchy is primarily focused on crops and lumber. I don't know what any of those animals are, Lady Shork said. I believe pigs are related to wild boars, Florine said. Oh. We have those, at least we used to until recently. As for cows and sheep, I'm not sure if there's something similar here. We raise cows for milk, meat, and leather while our sheep are primarily raised for their wool, which is spun into yarn for textiles. We have none here for that, Lady Shork said. Except for the milk part, humans take milk from animals. Milk is used in a sizable portion of our cuisine, Florine replied. It's used in everything from stews to baked goods and can be rendered into cheese, butter, and cream. Sorry, Lady Shork said, I'm not familiar with any of those. Then what is she familiar with? Despite having the appearance of a built-up society, it seemed that dealing with the beastmen would be closer to dealing with the demi-human tribes in the Great Forest of Tob than the beastman races in Carnassus. This wasn't necessarily a bad thing. They might not be as easy to deal with as people with a similar frame of reference, but their undeveloped state suggested that there were plenty of untapped resources to take advantage of. In that case, Florine said, shall we focus on the needs of your people? The exploration of non-essentials can wait. Right, Lady Shork said. The closest herd isn't far from here. Is everything we've offloaded so far fodder? We made sure to have the samples for your livestock offloaded first, Florine said. If we've missed anything, we can just have someone bring it over. Lady Shork looked up at the humans and goblins looking down at the wharf from the safety of their ship. What about the people who came with you? I believe that many find the city a bit overwhelming at the moment, Florine replied. It will take them some time to accustom themselves to it. The Beastman Lord led them west along the wharf, passing the lift that had conveyed them to her court atop the hill. They continued following the river far past the end of the port facilities using a well-worn trail that gradually left the river below them. Leanne eyed the construction underway on the opposite shore. What's that? She pointed across the river. We're building a set of locks so our barges can bypass the dam here, Lady Shork said. There's a lake and a string of trading outposts on the other side. Is that unexpected, or not? As far as she could tell, the beastmen of Roland Gork were pretty primitive from a technological standpoint. However, they relied heavily on the river networks of their homes, so that might explain why their river-related infrastructure was so advanced by comparison. A few minutes later, a wall of dark stone that stretched across the narrow valley came into view. The top of the wall was broken near the center, creating a cascade that churned the waters below. "It's broken," Leanne said. "Why not fix it?" "Our ancestors built this dam," Lady Shawk replied. "We don't know how it works anymore." "So your people just forgot?" "It's more complicated than that. A long time ago, we were attacked by something. That something destroyed the country of our ancestors. We're merely the survivors. The courtyard where I received you and the pyramids surrounding it were left behind by our ancestors as well." "How long ago did this attack occur?" Ludmilla asked. "From what survived of our history," Lady Shawk answered, "over 6 generations ago. Honestly, we don't remember much about that time. Just surviving afterwards was hard enough." "How long is one of your generations?" Leanne asked. About 30 years. Was she talking about the demon gods? People tended to forget about stuff pretty quickly if it wasn't recorded somewhere, so it probably hadn't happened much further in the past than the 6th-generation figure. It didn't take long for them to reach the lake on the other side of the dam. Just beyond the grassy shore on both sides, countless structures could be seen in the shadows of the trees. Leanne pointed up at one of the basket-like structures that hung above them. "We saw a bunch of those floating on the river," she said. "What are they?" Lady Shawk looked up to see what she was pointing at. "Those are bowers," she said. "They are sleeping places for Osalo." "Just Osalo?" "Well, there's no rule that other races can't sleep in one," the Osalo Lord replied, "but they're not comfortable in the trees. I guess it's kind of an advantage for Osalo clans since we can use the ground below our homes for agriculture instead." "I noticed other races in your territory, Lady Shawk," Ludmilla said. "What is their relationship to the Pacan clan?" "They are a part of the clan," Lady Shawk said. "That's a recent thing, though. Pretty much everyone you see here was a resident of the city. Well, they still are, but they were clanless before. So it isn't normal to have multiple races in a single clan." "It isn't. Clan Pacan is unique in that aspect. The city slowly grew over our territory. After a while, we became city dwellers as well. It wasn't until this year that we reasserted ourselves as a clan." "What does it mean to be a city dweller here?" Florian asked. The Osalo Lord fell silent for several moments. "I guess the biggest thing is that you're clanless," she said. "For most, there's no one to look out for them aside from their immediate family and maybe their closest friends if they have those. The people here are descended from clan outcasts from every race or are clan outcasts themselves." "When you say outcasts," Florian said, "does that mean they're guilty of some crime?" "Not usually, Lady Shawk. Being an outcast can mean anything from being deemed unsuited for clan life or there being too many mouths to feed. How the clans see the cities is similar. They're just places where the unwanted and extra resources collect. It's not an easy life." "Then it was your experience of being a city dweller that led to accepting other races into your clan?" Ludmilla asked. "Not specifically," Lady Shawk answered. "Before the Oraculon started to flood, we were just an Osalo clan trying to slowly re-establish itself. When the waters didn't recede like they usually do and the herds lost their grazing areas for the dry season, I saw the threat facing all of Roland Gork and started taking in everyone that I could. Not just people from the city, but also the local tribes. We've also made friends with many clans around the cities nearby." "So it was compassion?" Florian asked. "It's just normal," Lady Shawk said. "The clans and tribes of Roland Gork usually keep to themselves. When something threatens everyone, we all work together." "That's weird," Leanne said. "Why?" "Well, in my experience, individuals and groups of people usually look out for themselves when things get tough." "Why would they do that?" Lady Shawk asked in a puzzled tone. Banding together with others in troubled times improves the chances of a group's survival. If we did what you said, we'd have long been destroyed by our enemies. After walking by some odd-looking construction on the shoreline that Lady Shawk claimed would be a new shipyard, they found the crates taken from their cargo neatly arranged at the edge of a recently grazed patch of land. A small crowd of assorted beastmen turned from their discussion to face them as they approached, offering a mix of disjointed greetings. "So these are the potential source of fodder you mentioned," Anna at the front of the group said. "Yeah," Lady Shawk said. This is Baroness Florine, Baroness Ludmilla, Countess Leanne, and Countess Clara." The beastmen once again offered a mix of disjointed greetings, which didn't sound unlike a group of villagers in Riestais or the Empire. It seemed that simple folk were the same wherever one went. "Baroness Florine is the chief of a tribe that raises livestock," Lady Shawk told them. "She'll be able to explain what all of this stuff is. If you don't mind." "It would be my pleasure," Florine smiled. "To begin with, let's take a look at these nug your people raise." Two Osalo disappeared into the trees, reappearing several minutes later with animals resembling Nook with less hair. The lumbering beasts plodded into the clearing in a tightly packed group, stopping a good distance from the gathering. They caught wind of the humans' scent and fled into the trees, one of the Osalo said. "Our nug are usually quite docile, but they can become violent if spooked or feel directly threatened." "So they're scared of humans, yet perfectly fine around the beastmen that eat them?" Nook were massive magical beasts that weighed well over a ton, and Nug didn't seem any different in that regard. The idea that they would be frightened of relatively tiny humans didn't make much sense. "It's more likely that our unfamiliar scent unsettled them. These animals shouldn't have any history with humans." Florine made her way over to their assembled samples, picking up one of the bundles of straw piled at her feet. "We call this straw," she said. "It's the stalks of the grains that humans grow for food. Our livestock can't subsist entirely on straw, but it is a workable supplement for the diets of all sorts of animals." One of the Osalo tentatively took the bundle of straw in Florine's hands and padded over to the herd of Nug. The largest of the animals shuffled over to sniff curiously at the offerings placed on the ground between them. After several moments, it shuffled back to its herd, issuing guttural grunts and groans as it did so. The Osalo turned back to Florine with an unfamiliar expression. "She's either not hungry or not interested," he said. "Nug readily feed on grasses and reeds, so I was hopeful that this straw of yours would be acceptable." Leanne tamped down on her disappointment. Straw was the thing that the Sorceress Kingdom had the most of. A vast jungle full of hungry herd animals would have been an ideal outlet for it. Florine shifted over to the nearest crate, opening the lid to reveal the grain filling it to the brim. "This is barley," she said. "It's one of the main crops we cultivate for human consumption." "You mean to say that you're willing to part with your own food?" "We've had a significant surplus over the past few harvests." The Osalo knelt to run his claws through the grains of barley. "Our herds often graze on grass seed like this," he said. "There shouldn't be any problem with this barley of yours." Once again, the largest of the Nug plodded forward to investigate the new offerings. Once again, it returned to its herd without partaking of the offered food, grunting and groaning as it did so. "What? That's perfectly good barley. Maybe they don't like unfamiliar food. Just watch." Leanne glanced at Ludmilla, who continued to observe the distant herd. The animals shuffled around until one of the smaller Nug emerged, tailed by a single calf. Plaintive calls sounded from the calf as the other Nugs settled in to feed on the grain. "It looks like she's eating the straw, too," Ludmilla said. "Are these things screwing with us?" Leanne muttered. "No," Ludmilla said. "Chances are that the herd is prioritizing which of their members feeds first. This one is a nursing mother." "Ah, they can do that." "Since they're related to Nook," Ludmilla said, "they're also magical beasts. All magical beasts are at least as intelligent as a human child, even if it doesn't look like it." "What you say is true," Anna in the group of beastmen said. We've been rationing each animal's fodder for so long now that the possibility didn't immediately come to mind. In that case, Florine said, we should offload more feed. We don't want anyone being left out, do we? As it turned out, there appeared to be nothing that Nug wouldn't eat, not out of the samples they had brought with them, at any rate. Now, it was time to figure out what the beastmen had to offer in return. When they returned to the wharf, they found that the lizard men and orcs had disembarked and were conversing between themselves. Lady Shawk's eyes went from one group to the other. Who are these people? She asked. This is Chief Kestris Ises of the Winter Scale tribe, Ludmilla said. And this is Chief Dal Ganzu of the Ganzu tribe. Both of their tribes dwell within the borders of my territory. Chief Ises, Chief Ganzu, this is Countess Shawk of the Pakan clan. We greet you, Countess Shawk, Chief Ises nodded in a human-like fashion. When Baroness Zaradnik told us we would be visiting your people, we had no idea that you ruled over so many. To call them a clan is an understatement. Thanks, I guess. Lady Shawk said, I don't know very much about the outside world, so you'll have to bear with my ignorance. Speaking of which, I'm confused about how you address one another. I thought it was Baroness Ludmilla, but you call her Baroness Zaradnik instead. I told you it doesn't work, Dame Verilyn said. Lady Zaradnik was the one who decided to assign human equivalents for Roland Gork's honorifics, and now they're stuck with them. Lady Shawk turned to look at Ludmilla. Eh? So they don't hear Countess Shawk of the Pakan clan? They don't, Dame Verilyn replied. They hear something that you have no equivalent for, much like they have no equivalent for how your people address their lords. I see. Wait, how do you know so much about my people? What are you talking about? It's me. The Osalo Lord peered at Dame Verilyn. I'm pretty sure I've never met you. Of course you have. I've been around for months. Months? But the only guests we've had for months are, why, your winter moon. I didn't know you were a human. I'm not a human, Dame Verilyn was the very picture of affront. Humans do not have the ability to alter their selves. At least not that I've seen. I apologize for the confusion my vassal has caused, Ludmilla said. Dame Verilyn is a dragon. A frost dragon. The confusion in Lady Shawk's voice only grew. Vassal? Eh? Leanne cleared her throat. As amusing as this is, she said, we should really continue with our trade talks. Looming starvation and all that. Of course, Countess. Wagner. Human lords are addressed by the name of the land they rule. I see, so you rule the land of Wagner. She rules the land of Zaradnik. No. No? Baroness Zaradnik is weird. I'm not weird. Wanna bet? Leanne said, anyways, let's move on. Right. My clan's merchants have been looking forward to dealing with you. This way, please. Lady Shawk led them to the caged lift that had conveyed them to the top of the cliffs earlier. Since Roland Gork's river barges used a similar method to power them, one could easily come to the conclusion that it wasn't an out-of-place piece of machinery. However, something about it suggested otherwise, at least by Leanne's reckoning. This lift looks pretty new, she said. When was it built? Just before the last deluge, Lady Shawk replied. It saved us a lot of time and trouble. The deluge, as in the rainy season? That's right. Funny, Leanne said, they call it the same thing in the Draconic Kingdom. I know. The floor shuddered slightly as they reached the top of the lift. They stepped onto a lane paved with cut stones that clearly looked out of place, leading them along a street that wound between rows of stone houses that also looked out of place. Why is it so different up here compared to everywhere else? Leanne asked, is it because it's a high-class district? No, Lady Shawk answered. We started fixing up this terrace just before the deluge. The entire clanhold will have buildings like this eventually. How come the stonework looks so different from the older construction? Because we've lost the method to construct them, a hint of bitterness entered Lady Shawk's voice. Just like the dam. The old buildings you see here weren't just big stone buildings, they were magical big stone buildings. All of the ruins that you see had some function that doesn't function anymore. The new buildings you see here aren't magical, they're just what the human masons recommended as a balance between material costs and comfort. That makes sense. Wait, did you just say human masons? Yeah, I have a couple of them among my slaves. What? Lady Shawk flinched at Florine's sudden outburst. The Overlord turned to regard them, ears flattened against her head and tail tucked between her legs. Did I say something wrong? You didn't say anything. Because I wanted to see your reaction. But Ludmilla didn't say anything either. Well, if I told her, then she would have told you. We would like to see these slaves, Florine asked coolly. We were on our way to meet them, Lady Shawk said. Some of the merchants I want you to speak with are humans. Lady Shawk resumed walking, periodically looking over her shoulder at them. Leanne turned her attention to Dame Verilyn, who strolled nonchalantly beside Ludmilla. They followed the Overlord in a wide circuit below the top of the hill, making their way past more of the same simple stone construction. Occasionally, they would walk by clearings with ruins carved in the more substantial style that Lady Shawk's distant ancestors employed. I smell humans. Leanne glanced at Ludmilla. You smell humans? You sure it isn't us? It's not your individual sense, it's the scent of humans and human habitation. There wasn't any wind to carry the odor of cookfires or any other telltale signs of a human settlement, so Leanne wasn't sure how Ludmilla was able to tell. It wasn't long, however, before the scenery ahead of them dramatically changed. Lines draped with bright streamers were stretched between the buildings and each home sported gaily painted facades and flowers in fired clay pots. After they passed several such homes, they caught their first glimpse of the resident humans. Leanne smiled and waved at a little girl watching them from the window of one of the buildings. Hello, Leanne said. The girl left the window, disappearing into the shadows of her home. Leanne clicked her tongue. Leanne. Florine hissed. What? I'm not allowed to say hi to people? Not if you're going to have that sort of reaction. TCH. She quickly put the incident with the unsociable child behind her as they entered what could only be described as a market square. It was also unmistakably human in design, complete with covered stands and storefronts fashioned in the aesthetic of the Draconic Kingdom. Lady Shawk stepped aside to give them a better view of their surroundings. Here we are, the Overlord said. This is where all of the human slaves in the clanhold live. Just beyond here is the place we've prepared for you. Leanne and her friends stared at Lady Shawk for a good, long moment. The Beastman took a step back. Did I say something wrong? Sticking those two lines together didn't sound very nice, Leanne told her. I'm sorry, Lady Shawk replied. I don't know what it sounds like to you, but it sounded fine to me. There was little they could do but take her word for it. Things would go more smoothly, probably, once they had a handle on Overlord expressions. Anyways, the Overlord said. Feel free to stop and take a look at anything that interests you. I'm going to go and look for our negotiators. With that, Lady Shawk slipped into the modest crowd of humans and beastmen. Leanne sized up the beastmen standing between herself and the first few stands, trying to figure out how to get through them. She does a lot of stuff on her own as a leader. Lady Shawk gives off the feeling of a ruler who hasn't quite yet established her rule. Many things about how she conducts herself in an official capacity are still very much unofficial, and the hierarchy under her seems mostly unused. Florine's assessment just about summed things up. Of course, Lady Shawk herself admitted that her clan had just re-established its rule, so it was to be expected, sort of. Unlike the human countries in the region, they had little idea of how Roland Gork's clans administered themselves in the first place. Unable to squeeze herself through the beastmen, Leanne had to wait until they moved on from whatever they were looking at to finally get a look at the front stands. The glitter of gems and precious metals caught the midday light, causing her to squint several times as she walked up to a table arrayed with jewelry and framed by carvings of obsidian and jade. "Welcome, my ladies," a middle-aged man of slight build greeted her. "You must be our guests from the Sorceress Kingdom." "Sure are," Leanne replied as she eyed the tools pocketed in the man's leather apron. "You've got a lot of impressive work on display here. Are they all yours?" "I am the lapidary, Altan," the man bowed slightly. "The smith responsible for the metalwork is currently manning his forge in our shared workshop." "Have you been partners for long?" Florian asked. "Oh, yes," Altan answered with a gentle smile. "Decades. Life has taken an interesting turn as of late, but the more strange things become, the more I find that what is important remains familiar. We've heard that all of the humans here were taken from the Draconic Kingdom as slaves," Florian said. "Is there anything you can tell us about that?" The artisan blinked as if he never considered that the subject of his enslavement would become the topic of discussion. What is there to say? I suppose most of us consider it a second apprenticeship, my lady." "A second apprenticeship?" Clara frowned. "Do you mean to say that the terms of your enslavement are similar to a contract of indenture?" "Why, yes, my lady. That is exactly what it is. In exchange for getting us out of Rivergarden where we would have surely been eaten, we signed contracts of indenture for ourselves and on behalf of our families." "That's quite the gamble given what you knew at the time," Clara said. "The process was a formal procedure through the Merchant Guild," Altan seemed to shrug. "The beastmen who suggested the idea were quite well versed in them." Leanne's eyes wandered from the artisan to the beastmen around the market. Familiar with the procedures of the Merchant Guild? How could that be? Then again, the beastmen who had invaded the Draconic Kingdom did give human merchants special treatment. Maybe it was something related to that. "Does that mean there are other slaves from the Draconic Kingdom elsewhere in Rolengork?" Leanne asked. "I can't say for sure, my lady," Altan answered. "What I can say is that demand for our work seems endless even with the troubles the beastmen are facing." "Meaning that if human slaves dwelt elsewhere in Rolengork, they probably weren't anywhere nearby. If they were, they could have been tracked down by the distinct goods they produced." "Sorry for the wait," Lady Shawk's voice sounded to their left. "Here are the negotiators I mentioned before." She turned to find Lady Shawk with a mix of beastmen and humans behind her, all of whom were adorned in all too familiar uniforms. Leanne fought to keep her laughter from escaping as Ludmilla froze in place at the sight.